Hello, Arrtx recently sent me this box of acrylic markers for free to have a play with. I know that Arrtx have had a few different ranges of acrylic markers and I've not tried out any of their other ones, but I thought today I'd like to have a play with these and also compare them with my Posca markers and Molotow markers. This is the 36 set and these have 3mm nibs. The information they give are that they have strong coverage and are waterproof. They're water-based and bright, and they paint on anything. The pens don't have colour names, they just have this number which is in the cap. So it's a nice sturdy cardboard box. And the pens come with 5 extra nibs, which just slide in and out. You can see the numbers. So it says shake the marker to mix the ink, press the tip several times and start using the marker once the tip is inked. I've got most of these flowing already just because I thought it would take a long time to get them all inked. But actually these got the ink flow through really quickly and I've saved one so I can show you. There's this clear section of the pen here so that you can see ink levels. So this is the one that I've not got the ink flowing on yet. You can see the tips come like that and can just be pulled out and replaced. I don't like pumping my pen nibs loads just because I think it damages them. So I'm just going to shake it a bit. You can hear that there's a ball in there. And then press it down and hold it down. Because the barrel's clear, you can see the progress of the ink. So that's it nearly done. And that looks saturated now. I'm just going to quickly swatch them out first of all. I've pulled out a mixed media pad to do that, but I will be trying out these pens on a few different surfaces to see if they make the paper pill or not, and also compare the Posca and Molotow pens in that respect. I haven't used this pad in ages actually. Can't remember what's in here. Oh, I've got some of my old oil pastels in here. Okay. So my first impression of the pens is that they're really beautiful and juicy. With a single passing of the nib, like I did just there, it didn't chew up the paper much. But this one here, where I hadn't shaken it properly, I don't know if you can see, but it did start to chew up the paper a little bit when I went over it. These are the 2 metallics in the set. The silver's very nice. The gold is quite a yellowy gold. As far as the colour range goes, I'm really happy about some of the colours that have been included. For example, there's some nice neutrals and more muted pinks. I like that there's a lilac, this muted purple's lovely. I really like this dark olive green. You have got some colours that are quite similar. These 3 yellows are all quite similar. This one's slightly lighter, probably in the middle, and then this one's slightly darker. These 2 peachy pinks are quite similar. these two reds and these two plummy colours. It would have been nice to have a really pale blue and a really dark blue instead of some of those that are so similar. But overall though, I really quite like this colour selection. So what I'm most keen to do now is compare them with my other pens. These are my Poscas. They're mainly the PC3Ms, which has a nib size of 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters. But I have also got a few of the next size up, the PC5M, which are 1.8 to 2.5 millimeters. So I'll try out both of those. This isn't going to be a wildly scientific experiment, but hopefully if I have a good play with them, it will give you an idea of how these Arrtx markers compare. And then I've got a few of the Molotow One4All markers, and most of these are 2mm ones. I just keep them stored in a paintbrush box. I'll take a look at opacity first of all, and I'll use whites. I've got the Q0 from Arrtx, Nature White from Molotow, and Posca White. So I've given them all a good shake up. Now my Posca White seems to have dried up completely. I can't get anything out of it. I'll have to use my fatter PC17 White Posca. I'll let that dry before looking at it closely. Actually, I'll do another colour while I'm at it. I've got a bit of space. That's the Q215 Arrtx. And then I've got the Coral Posca. And then I've got the Skin Pastel. What I want to do next is see how much they chew up the paper when you put repeated layers on. So I think what I will do is I'm going to do 3 circles and see how much pilling I get when I put additional layers on top. The Arrtx one is Q577. The Posca one is khaki. And the Molotow one is Future Green. I'm just waiting for them to dry, and I don't know if you can see, the Molotow is drying the most quickly. Then the Posca is drying the second most quickly, and the Arrtx is still quite wet. I don't know how much of that has got to do with the age of the pens. My Poscas are quite a few years old now, but the Molotow ones are quite new, just a few months old. So it's not a case of the older ones are drying the fastest. Okay, they're nearly dry now, so I'm going to go in with a second coat. Okay, that wasn't too bad. It was nice and smooth from the Posca. And a little bit of roughness with the Molotow. Actually, I'll just put a second coat on all of these ones. Okay, those are all pretty much dry, so I'll just go over with a third. Coat. So they all went down quite well. These first ones are all dry as well, and I'd say that the whites are all fairly similarly opaque. The Posca coral was less opaque than the two pastel pinks, but that's probably not a very fair test because the more white that's mixed with a colour, the more opaque it becomes. But at least it shows that the Arrtx is pretty comparable as far as opacity goes. I just want to do some repeated colouring now on a couple of different types of paper, again to look at the pilling. So I've got some Beohung hot pressed watercolour paper, some Canson XL cold pressed watercolour paper, and I'll do it again on this mixed media paper. I've chosen these ones because that's surfaces that I'm likely to be using acrylic pens on. This test showed that they can be layered up quite well, but there still wasn't a huge amount of scrubbing going on with those. I just thought I might as well stick some regular printer paper on as well. Okay, so that took about 5 or 6 passes before it started to get the surface off. Okay, so that was 4 passes on the Canson cold pressed. Okay, that started going on the second pass. Oops, sorry, that was from the previous layer. Right, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Between 3 and 4 that started going. That kind of started going a bit weird around 4, I would say. Okay, it's coming all clumpy. That was between 2 and 3. Ew, yeah. It's gone at 2. That was going around 3. Whoop, that's from a previous bit. 1, 2, 3. That's between 2 and 3 really. 1, 2, yeah, that's going. Yeah, that's already going on the first one on the printer paper. Okay. Now these Arrtx nibs are bigger and rougher, so when it did start to go, it really chewed it up into big chunks, whereas when these went, it was more, it kind of slowed down and clogged rather than churned up the big chunks. The other thing is that these are different sized nibs, though the Molotow at 2mm still chewed up the paper faster than the Posca, which had the smaller nib, so it's not necessarily correlating to nib size. I'll just do the same thing with the 1.8 to 2.5 Posca. because that sits sort of nearer the Molotow and Arrtx than the smaller Posca size. Let's see if it makes a difference. Okay, that started to kind of have that cloggy feel between 3 and 4 with the bigger nib. Okay, that started going on too. Oop. It's taken off it's taken off a big chunk of the paper there. That's kind of 1 to 2. Okay, that's starting, see it's lifted up again. That's 2 to 3, oops. So the chewing up of the paper doesn't seem to be related to nib size. Another thing I noticed when I was looking at this very, very saturated sample here in the dark colour is that the Arrtx has a sheen to it when it dries. I don't know if it's picking it up. The Posca actually looks a little bit streaky, and the Molotow is completely matte and flat looking. As a finish, I'd say I prefer the Molotow because I'm not as keen on the sheen. This actually reminds me more of the Liquitex inks. I haven't included these in the comparison because I've only got them in this large size. I'll just let that dry and show you a shine comparison. I don't think I like the Liquitex ink as much as the others because it seems to be a runnier ink. I put this on really, really thickly just now, and you can still see some areas where it's kind of patchy looking. So now the Liquitex is dried. You can see the shine in the more concentrated areas. It's pretty similar level of shine to these Arrtx ones. I was wanting to try and compare prices for you. One thing to note with the Arrtx pens is that they aren't available individually. So the set of 36 is £32.99 on Amazon at the moment. I found a set of Poscas. This is the 5M ones, so the most comparable width. A set of 12 was £19.99, although as I'm looking around at different Posca sets, the prices vary hugely from set to set. You can get a set of 39 for £68.69 at the moment. For the Molotow markers, you can get a set of 70, and that's £174.99, and a set of 20 I found for £54.95. The Poscas and Molotow can be bought individually though. So the Arrtx work out at £1.09 each in the set of 36. The Poscas in sets, the cheapest, worked out at £1.66 each that I could find just looking quickly today. And at Jackson's, to buy them open stock individually, the PC3M are £3.30 each, and the PC5M are £3.50 each. And then the Molotows, the cheapest I could find them, it was £2.50 when you bought the set of 70. And at Jackson's, the 2mm are £3.20 each, and the 4mm are £4.30 each. So the Arrtx are definitely a lot cheaper, but have fewer colours available and aren't available open stock. Though there is a larger set of 48 of these Arrtx pens. I also wondered about the light fastness of these pens. For the Molotow, their website says that they have good UV resistance, apart from their fluorescent neon colours. With the Poscas, from what I've seen in various places, I think Kimberly Crick talks about Posca pens. There's varying light fast. I think the pinks are less light fast than a lot of their other colours. And for the Arrtx, we've got no information. The Liquitex pens does give us a light fast rating on them. So to me, there isn't one ideal brand of acrylic markers. I think if you like the colour range in this Arrtx set and you're not worried about light fastness, then it's actually a really nice marker. I was really pleasantly surprised with how much I liked it. The Poscas are a good middle-of-the-road reliable pen, but I don't think has as nice a colour range as the Molotow markers. Though this little experiment here about scuffing up the paper does confirm what I've felt when I've been using my Molotows, which is that they do tend to scuff up the paper more than my other markers. Obviously you can test them and try out markers on a ton of different papers, but I've just used today the ones that I'm most likely to use them on. One thing I thought I could do as well is just show how they show up on black paper. I'm aware that the thinner nib is making thinner lines, so I'm just going back slightly to fill in some of the gaps in between the lines. Unfortunately, I don't have the same colours in the Molotows, so I'll just try and use colours of similar value or darkness. So pretty similar coverage, but because the Arrtx are so juicy, they kind of get a slightly more even looking finish, just because there's enough ink to be able to level out a bit. Whereas the Posca and Molotow aren't quite as juicy and also have narrower nibs, both of which probably adds to them looking a little bit more streaky. I wasn't planning on doing a picture for this video, but I saw an acrylic pen chicken on Instagram. I show the original artist's name in a minute, and I just thought it would be fun to have a quick scribble with the pens. They really are very juicy markers and keep up easily with the speed of the line work. Because they are so juicy, I had to use a heat tool to dry the picture a couple of times to stop the inks from flowing into each other and mixing. But I was really impressed with how nice they were to use and how opaque and rich they are. I felt like I could have done with a couple of extra colours, in particular a very dark brown. This is the name of the Instagram account I copied the picture from. So yes, not a particularly scientific look at markers, but hopefully this video will help you know roughly where to place these Arrtx acrylic markers in the grand scheme of acrylic markers. Thanks for watching, bye!